Welcome! Today we delve into Andrew Carnegie, Steel to Philanthropy, a captivating success story. We'll explore how Carnegie rose from a poor immigrant to a titan of industry, illustrating the transformative power of ambition and philanthropy. As we journey through his life, expect an engaging narrative filled with ambition, industrialization, and legacy. We'll also weave in advanced vocabulary and notable grammar, each explained in just a few words, to enrich your experience without overwhelming. Settle in for a calm and enlightening exploration of the American dream, as embodied by Andrew Carnegie's remarkable life. Andrew stepped off the boat onto the bustling docks of Pittsburgh, greeted immediately by the smoky aroma of industry hanging thick in the air. The city was alive with activity, each clang and whistle a testament to its burgeoning ambition. Never had he imagined such possibilities. Inversion for emphasis, auxiliary plus subject plus past participle. His eyes darted across the frenetic scene, taking in the cacophony of sounds, a symphony of hustle and promise that resonated deeply within him. Steel girders gleamed under the weak sunlight, while the river, muddy and relentless, bore witness to the ceaseless flow of commerce. Andrew's senses were overwhelmed, yet invigorated. The potential was palpable. Everywhere he looked, he found evidence of a city in the throes of transformation. He moved with intent through the crowd, feeling the coarse texture of cotton beneath his hands as he reported to his first job at a local mill. The environment was a far cry from his lofty dreams, yet it was a beginning. The roar of the machines was deafening, a constant reminder of his modest start. But Andrew had been dreaming of this moment for years. Past perfect continuous for background had been plus verb plus ing, and he was determined to seize it. During a brief interaction with Thomas Scott, the man who could become his mentor, Andrew sensed a dichotomy, support mingling with the subtle undercurrent of competition. Scott's gaze was penetrating, assessing the young man before him, and Andrew felt the weight of expectations settling on his shoulders. "I expect great things from you, lad," Scott intoned, his authoritative voice cutting through the clamor of the mill. There was a strategic edge to his words, a challenge veiled within the offer of support. Andrew nodded, understanding the complexity of their budding relationship, one that would be marked by both guidance and rivalry. Encouraged by his mother's fervent belief in his potential, Andrew committed himself to relentless self-improvement and education. Her letters, filled with hope and encouragement, carried the warmth of home, urging him to persevere. The tenacity, meaning persistence, of his spirit was undeniable, and he envisioned a future reshaped by his ambitions. In quiet moments, Andrew's thoughts would drift back to his mother, and a tender scene would unfold in his mind. Her voice, soft yet firm, would expound the virtues of hard work and integrity. It was during these reflections that Andrew's latent, meaning hidden, insecurities about his immigrant status emerged. Though outwardly confident, there lingered a fear of not belonging, of forever being seen as an outsider in his adopted land. As he gazed into the murky river, its surface a tapestry of reflections, Andrew contemplated the incipient, meaning beginning, journey before him, filled with both promise and peril. The river, like his life, was unpredictable, but it flowed onward, relentless and unfazed. In that moment, Andrew resolved to carve his own path, to rise above his circumstances through sheer will and intellect. He would not be defined by his humble origins, but by the legacy he would one day leave behind. The city, its smoke, its noise, its promise, beckoned him forward, and with a resolute heart, Andrew stepped into his future. Andrew Carnegie stood amidst the bustling railroad office, a symphony of activity surrounding him. The clattering of telegraphs and the relentless clanging of bells filled the air, creating an environment teeming with energy and potential. His senses were fully engaged, each sound and sight absorbed with the eagerness of a mind hungry to learn. Thomas Scott, exuding an authoritative presence, commanded the space around him with ease. He imparted his wisdom to Andrew with a mixture of pride and veiled caution. Understanding the intricacies, meaning complexities of this business, Andrew, is no small feat, Scott declared, gesturing broadly to the organized chaos of the room. Andrew listened intently, his sharp mind dissecting every piece of information. His pragmatic nature and visionary outlook were evident in the questions he posed, each one precise and insightful. "Mr. Scott," he ventured, "how do you foresee the future of transportation given these advancements?" His quick wit and probing intelligence impressed Scott, leaving him momentarily taken aback. "The future," Scott mused, "lies in steel and innovation." His words resonated with Andrew, sparking a chain of thoughts about the material that held promises beyond the railroads. As a fledgling, meaning inexperienced protege, Andrew's ambition was boundless. He contemplated the potential of steel, envisioning cities and industries growing from its use. The dream was vast, and despite his current role, he could see a world where steel would become the backbone of modernity. However, a subtle tension lingered in the air. Scott, despite his outward encouragement, felt an asterisk incipient, meaning beginning to develop jealousy. He sensed Andrew's potential and dreaded the day when his protege might surpass him. It was a quiet rivalry, simmering beneath the surface of their professional rapport. Later, in the solitude of his modest room, Andrew reflected on his immigrant roots. The journey from a Scottish village to the heart of American industry was not one he took lightly. His ambition was a fire, stoked by the desire to transcend those humble beginnings. Secretly, he harbored a goal to not only match, but exceed Scott's achievements. As the evening descended, Andrew took to the streets, a serene calm enveloping the city. The clang of industry became a symphony of opportunity in his ears. Each step he took seemed to echo his resolve. Never before had Andrew felt such determination. He thought, his mind filled with plans and possibilities. Inversion for emphasis, auxiliary plus subject plus past participle. For years, Andrew had been honing his talents with relentless focus. The past perfect continuous state of his efforts underscored the gradual evolution of his skills. Background action, past perfect continuous for evolving skills. Every experience had been a stepping stone, each challenge a test of his resolve. The city around him was alive with promise. The glow of street lamps flickered in the dusk, illuminating paths yet unseen. As he walked, Andrew's thoughts turned to the legacy he wished to leave. The world was changing rapidly, and he intended to be at the forefront of that change. The possibilities seemed infinite, and as he paused on a bridge overlooking the river, the water below mirrored the endless sky above. The scene was a quiet reminder of the vast potential within reach. Andrew's ambition, like the river, ran deep and unyielding. His mind, ever restless, began to plot the steps toward his ultimate goal. The clang of the city's industry was not just noise, but the beating of a drum, guiding him forward. The future loomed vast and bright, filled with challenges and triumphs that awaited his daring touch. The night wrapped around him, a cloak of possibilities, and as he turned back towards the heart of the city, Andrew knew that the path ahead, though fraught with challenges, was his to forge. Andrew stood in the heart of the bustling New York office, the cacophony of rustling papers and the staccato clicks of telegraphs, creating an ambiance of urgency. He was deep in conversation with a group of investors, their sharp eyes mirroring his own ambitions. The air was laden with the scent of ink and metal, a sensory cue that only fueled his industrial aspirations further. "Mr. Carnegie," one investor began, a hint of skepticism in his tone, "your proposal is indeed bold, But how do you intend to manage such expansive risks? Andrew's eyes gleamed with the fervor of a man who saw opportunity where others saw peril. "Gentlemen," he replied, his Scottish accent cutting through the room with precision, "it's not merely about managing risks, it's about shaping them. Steel is the backbone of this country's future, and with your support, we'll not just ride the wave, but lead it." His pragmatic and visionary nature shone through every carefully chosen word, and he watched with satisfaction as the investors exchanged nods. This was the art of persuasion, an intricate dance he had mastered. As the meeting concluded, Andrew felt the familiar thrill of success. Investments secured, he was now ready to transition to Pittsburgh, the city where his empire would truly take form. The journey was swift, yet each mile brought him closer to the clang of machinery that awaited. Here, the air sang with the relentless rhythm of progress, a symphony of industry that was both intoxicating and overwhelming. In the dimly lit office of Thomas Scott, his former mentor turned business rival, Andrew's demeanor shifted to one of strategic calm. Scott, a man whose authoritative presence commanded respect, leaned forward, eyes narrowed. "You have grown ambitious, Andrew. But remember, ambition without strategy is merely a dream." Andrew met his gaze unflinchingly. "And without ambition, strategy is a map to nowhere," he countered, his voice steady and unyielding. Such terse exchanges often revealed the cutthroat nature of their business dealings, each man acutely aware of the other's acumen, meaning shrewdness. Their conversation, a delicate balance of respect and rivalry, underscored the competitive landscape of steel. Andrew's tactics were sharp, perhaps ruthless, but they were necessary in a world where adversaries, meaning opponents, were as numerous as opportunities. Later, as the night enveloped the bustling city in a cloak of quietude, Andrew found himself alone in his office, a place where both dreams and doubts resided. The map of the railways lay unfurled before him, a testament to his expansive vision. Yet, amidst the grandeur of his achievements, a nascent, meaning emerging sense of inadequacy, gnawed at him. This feeling, rooted deep within his immigrant past, was not easily quelled. It was a reminder of the journey that had brought him here, a journey fraught with challenges and triumphs alike. He pondered the hypothetical scenarios of his success. Had he not left Scotland, had he faltered at any step? Subjunctive mood for hypothetical scenarios. Each path not taken seemed to linger in the edges of his mind, teasing him with what might have been. In that reflective moment, as he gazed at the intricate lines crisscrossing the map, Andrew understood both the weight and the wonder of his ambitions. They were the beacons guiding him forward, yet also the chains tethering him to a relentless pursuit of more. As dawn began to break, Andrew rose, invigorated by the prospect of what lay ahead. The empire he was building was more than a testament to his ambition. It was his legacy in the making. And so, within the quietude of that office, a subtle hook tugged at the edges of his consciousness. The realization that the true measure of his success might not rest in wealth alone, but in the transformative power of what he could achieve with it. The air around the mill was thick with a cacophony, meaning harsh noise, of clanging metal and roaring engines. The acrid smell of smoke, meaning sharp, hung heavily, turning the atmosphere almost tangible. Workers shouted unintelligibly over the din, their voices lost to the relentless hum of machinery. It was another bustling day at the steel mill until a groan, deep and foreboding, emanated from the largest machine. Suddenly the structure shuddered violently, like a beast in pain, sending a shock wave through the factory floor. At first there was confusion, a fleeting moment where time seemed to stall. Then chaos erupted. The machine cracked open with a resounding explosion, hurling fragments across the room. Workers scrambled, dodging the deadly shrapnel. In the aftermath, the acrid smoke mingled with the even more biting scent of fear and desperation. Miles away, Andrew Carnegie sat in his opulent office. The room was adorned with dark oak and rich tapestries, a testament to his achievements and the wealth he had amassed. The quiet elegance stood in stark contrast to the turmoil unfolding at the mill. A knock at the door broke his concentration, and Thomas Scott entered, his expression grave. "Andrew, we've got a situation," Scott stated, his voice devoid of its usual commanding tone. The words hung in the air like an unwelcome specter. Andrew looked up from his papers, eyebrows knitting together in concern. "What's happened?" "A mill accident. Bad one." The contrast between his serene surroundings and the calamity at the mill struck Andrew like a physical blow. For a moment he said nothing, absorbing the news. His mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, each more troubling than the last. Scott's gaze was steady, pragmatic. "Accidents happen, Andrew. We both know that." "But at what cost?" Andrew replied, his voice carrying a note of growing guilt. He had never been one to shy away from the harsh realities of business, yet now a sense of unease settled over him. Scott shrugged, a gesture that spoke volumes about his acceptance of the harsh industrial world. "We push on. It's what we do." Andrew nodded, though his heart wasn't in it. He rose from his chair, determined to see the aftermath for himself. The drive to the mill was a blur, caught between the whispers of doubt and the roar of his conscience. Arriving at the site, Andrew was struck by the haunting silence. Where once there had been a symphony of industry, now there was only the quiet rustle of debris being cleared. The floor was a tangle of twisted metal and shattered glass, a testament to the violence of the accident. As he walked through the remnants, Andrew felt the weight of responsibility settling firmly on his shoulders. He paused, staring at the remnants of the machine like a mournful sentinel. Never had he felt such regret. Inversion for emphasis, auxiliary plus subject plus past participle. Later, as the storm began to gather, Andrew stood by the window of his study. The rain began as a gentle patter against the glass, quickly escalating into a deluge. Thunder rolled in the distance, echoing his inner tumult. He had been grappling with these thoughts for weeks, past, perfect, continuous for background. But today they felt more pressing than ever. He recalled the conversation with the family of a worker who had perished in the accident. Their grief was palpable, their loss immeasurable. They were not just employees, but individuals with lives and dreams. The encounter left him introspective, forcing him to confront the legacy he would leave behind. Andrew found himself wandering to the Mill River, the water churning with the intensity of the storm. He stood there, the rain soaking him through, lost in thought. It was here, amidst the raging elements, that a nascent, meaning emerging, realization began to form. Perhaps there was a way to reconcile his ambition with a greater purpose. The idea of philanthropy had always intrigued him, but until now it had been a distant notion, something to consider once he had firmly cemented his empire. Yet, as the storm roiled around him, the concept took root, growing in strength and clarity. He had the power to effect change, to use his wealth for the betterment of society. The thought was both daunting and exhilarating, a new challenge that beckoned to him with the promise of a different kind of success. As the rain continued to fall, Andrew turned back towards the mill, the outlines of his realization still faint but undeniably present. There was work to be done, both within the steel walls and within his own heart, and for the first time he felt ready to begin. Andrew sat alone in his study, the architectural plans sprawled across the grand oak desk. The rough texture of the paper beneath his fingers was reassuring, a tangible connection to his mission. He examined the intricate designs of libraries, each detail meticulously drafted. These plans were not just blueprints of edifices, but symbols of his deep commitment to self-education advocacy, meaning support. In the adjoining room, a journalist shuffled his notes, the crisp scent of fresh ink mingling with the faint aroma of paper. The journalist, seated across from Andrew, eyed him with a blend of curiosity and skepticism. Some say your philanthropy, meaning charity, serves more as a monument to your ego than to education. What do you say to that? Andrew smiled, unfazed. I say it's a shame more egos aren't built on the foundation of learning. Education transforms lives. It certainly changed mine. His accent, though softened by years in America, still carried the steady cadence of his Scottish roots. The conversation meandered through predictable paths, the journalist probing Andrew's motives with pointed questions. Yet, Andrew remained steadfast, his responses a careful balance of humility and pride. He had not come to this point lightly. He had been contemplating this change for years, past perfect continuous for background, ever since those childhood days spent in the musty corners of a library. In his mind, Andrew drifted back to those dimly lit aisles, where the smell of aged paper hung heavy in the air. He recalled the sense of wonderment he felt with each book he devoured. The power of knowledge had opened worlds beyond his modest beginnings, igniting within him an insatiable hunger for more. As Andrew walked through the bustling city later, the clanging of steel echoed around him, a reminder of his industrial legacy. Yet this legacy was incomplete without the other half of his vision, the part that called him to give back and create lasting change. He met Thomas Scott in a secluded corner of a quiet restaurant. The tension between them was palpable, their past an intricate dance of mentorship and rivalry. Scott leaned forward, his voice a low rumble. Andrew, I can't help but question, why the shift from empire building to book giving? Andrew chuckled, meeting Thomas's gaze with unwavering confidence. It's not a shift, Thomas. It's an expansion. Never had I felt so resolute. Inversion for emphasis, auxiliary plus subject plus past participle. The world is changing, and we must ensure others can change with it. Scott nodded, though a glint of skepticism lingered in his eyes. The conversation shifted to pleasantries, but the underlying tension persisted. Andrew's decision to focus on philanthropy challenged the very essence of Scott's ambitions, creating a silent discord between mentor and protege. Later that afternoon, Andrew stood before a crowd gathered for the opening of a new library. The air was filled with the comforting scent of varnish and new books. He addressed the assembly with the same passion that had fueled his rise in the steel industry. Today marks more than just the opening of a building, he declared, his voice resonating through the hall. It marks a commitment to the future, a legacy of learning. Let this library be a beacon of opportunity, where anyone, regardless of their beginnings, can find the tools to shape their destiny. The audience erupted into applause, their enthusiasm a testament to Andrew's vision. As he stepped down from the podium, he felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Yet, underneath it all, a flicker of uncertainty remained. Could his efforts truly make a difference in the grand scheme of things? As Andrew mingled with the attendees, his mind wandered to the next steps of his journey. The challenges ahead were numerous, but he was undeterred. His legacy, he knew, would be measured not just by the wealth he amassed, but by the lives he touched along the way. Andrew stepped into the grand library, the lofty silence enveloping him like a warm embrace. Here, among the towering shelves and the scent of aged leather, he found refuge from the relentless clamor of the industrial world outside. The library was a sanctuary of tranquility, where the whispers of history echoed softly between marble columns and stained-glass windows. As he walked past rows of books, Andrew observed young learners absorbed in their studies. Their earnest faces and quiet determination struck a chord within him, evoking a sense of the salubrious atmosphere, a health-giving energy that invigorated his spirit. It reminded him of the endless possibilities that lay ahead for those who sought knowledge with open hearts and minds. Settling himself at an ornate desk, Andrew withdrew a sheaf of paper and a pen, his tools for shaping the future. He intended to write essays on wealth and asterisk largesse, exploring the idea of generosity as a responsibility rather than a luxury. With each stroke of his pen, he hoped to influence a new generation, guiding them toward a path where ambition and altruism could coexist. The scratch of the pen created a rhythmic counterpoint to the hushed whispers around him, the symphony of knowledge seekers. As he wrote, he pondered his own journey, reflecting on how far he had come. From the humble beginnings of an immigrant boy to a titan of industry, his life had been a series of asterisk metamorphoses. Each transformation pushed him further, yet never without a cost. But it was, he mused, the essence of growth and change. A fleeting memory of Thomas Scott crossed his mind, pausing his pen mid-sentence. Thomas had been his mentor, a guiding force in his early career. Though supportive, Scott's shadow still lingered in Andrew's thoughts, a reminder of the fierce competition and ambition that had once driven them both. He wondered how his mentor would view his current endeavors, whether pride or envy would color Scott's judgment. Never had Andrew imagined. Here, his thoughts took an unexpected turn, that his ambitions would lead him to such heights, inversion after negative adverbials, auxiliary plus subject plus verb. He marveled at the intertwining of ambition and philanthropy in his life. These were not merely pursuits, but intertwined paths that had left an indelible mark on the world around him. The realization brought a sense of fulfillment, yet also a challenge to do more, to be more. The library's architecture, with its elegant arches and soaring ceilings, reminded him of bridges, both literal and metaphorical, that he had built over the years. These bridges connected worlds, facilitated understanding, and symbolized the unity of his dual aspirations. As he surveyed the majestic expanse, he felt a profound sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought him here. He had been reflecting for hours, unaware of time's passage, past perfect continuous for background, had plus been plus present participle. The library in its majestic silence was a testament to the enduring power of knowledge, and a beacon for those who sought to change the world one word at a time. As Andrew stood to leave, a subtle thought lingered at the edge of his consciousness. There was still much to be done, new challenges to face, and stories yet unwritten. The world was vast, and his part in it, though significant, was but a chapter in the ongoing narrative of human endeavor. With a final look at the young scholars, their heads bent over books that could alter destinies, Andrew felt a renewed sense of purpose. He stepped back into the bustling world, carrying with him the quiet strength of the library, a sanctuary that had given him so much more than mere words on a page. Little did he know, the coming days would bring an unexpected opportunity, one that would test the very essence of his ideals and reshape his legacy forever. Thanks for tuning in to the English Frequency Podcast. We're glad to be part of your English learning journey, from beginner to advanced. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, share, and leave a review. Keep practicing, stay motivated, and see you in the next episode.